Yeah.
Welcome back to the channel, guys. Here I am once again with another review coming out of the Toronto International Film Festival, and today I'm going to be talking about Nightbitch, written and directed by Marielle Heller, starring Amy Adams and Scoot McNairy, and this follows a woman who is a stay-at-home mom and is taking care of her, I think, probably around 3-year-old son, and basically all the trials and tribulations that come about with that and being a mother, until she starts to find out that perhaps she's turning into a dog. This is a very, very bizarre premise based on the book by Rachel Yoder, and I've heard, many good things about the book, and I was excited because obviously Amy Adams was given the TIFF Tribute Award, which usually is an indicator for who's going to win the Oscar the next year. I mean, Joaquin Phoenix has won it for Joker, Anthony Hopkins won it for The Father, Jessica Chastain won it for The Eyes of Tammy Faye, Brendan Fraser won it for The Whale, and Coleman Domingo won it last year for, I believe, Sing Sing. So, sight unseen for him yet, but all those other ones have gone on to win the Oscar. And so everyone is naturally very excited about this because Amy Adams has been nominated 6 times and still hasn't won. One of the most acclaimed actresses in the industry today, one of the best actors of her generation. And then we saw the trailer, which was one of the worst fucking things I've ever seen in my life. If I'm being really honest, it looked worse than most Happy Madison movies. So, as soon as that came up, I think a lot of people started questioning the Oscar prospects of this film, especially me. And look, I am here to happily report that the trailer was just a flub. Bad editing comes in many ways, shapes, or forms, and it can mutate what otherwise is a great product. And I really do think that's what happened here with Nightbitch. Now, to be upfront, does everything in this movie work 100%? No, but I'm going to get into that. But I will say right off the bat, the first thing I have to mention is Amy Adams in this film, because I'm going to be honest with you guys, for someone who lost all excitement for this film going into it, I was absolutely blown away by this performance. Not only do I think it is probably my favorite performance of the year right now, I think it's the best performance of Amy Adams' entire career. Like, this is what she built up to and has been putting in all this great work to get to this moment, and I think she is just absolutely on fire in this film. There are so many moments where not only does she get to chew up the scenery in this film, but also it's a very internalized role where a lot is going on inside of her head that you can see through her actions, but she tries to suppress. And those moments where she really lets it flourish and come to the surface are some of the most compelling moments of acting you will see this entire year. If it were up to me, I would give her the Oscar. I really would. I think this is her time. I think she deserves it. Now, I don't know if this movie is going to get her that Academy Award that she's, been long overdue for, but I certainly think is more than deserving. She gets these big moments too where, she'll be like saying something that's a very long-winded, internalized monologue about motherhood, and I got confused because I was like, wait, this is like very heavy-handed and on the nose, but then you realize it was just an externalization of what is going on internally, and that's when I realized it was a very internal thought that she was having. And the movie does this very cleverly throughout the entire runtime. It's very self-reflexive in that regard. But I think more than anything, the observations it makes about motherhood is quite astute. And it really calls into question a lot of things that mothers have to give up in their lives to kind of fully devote themselves to their children. And what is that sacrifice? Is it misplaced? Can you still be able to pursue your own art while raising this child who is, obviously so important to you and takes up a majority of your time. The movie really does question this, but it also shows the internal struggle that a mother may be dealing with in this type of situation, because you have to sacrifice so much for your children and what time is left for yourself. And I think Amy Adams absolutely nails this internal conflict that's going on throughout this entire story. And I really, really love her work here. I can't stress that enough, how terrific she is. But I also think Scoot McNairy is really, really incredible as well. I would throw him in the conversation to be nominated for Best Supporting Actor, and he plays the husband in this. And he's a very, very interesting character, because at certain points in the narrative, you really don't have a whole lot of sympathy for him and how he interacts with his wife. But then, there's some scenes that happen later on. Probably the best argument scenes I've seen since Maestro or Anatomy of a Fall. Yeah, it really gets there, which was not what I was expecting from the trailer at all, where you begin to really understand where he's coming from, his perspective on it, and it's really just unbelievable. Because then you start to realize, oh shit, like, I completely understand what he is going through and what he is seeing in his situation. And I really love the dichotomy between the two. It's so extremely well written, and the balance you have to pull that off is very, very tricky. And I think this movie does that with flying colors. I think Marielle Heller's screenplay is very strong in a lot of respects. A lot of the self-reflexive humor. And I mean, talk about the humor. This is one of the funniest movies of the year. And I think that there were some truly laugh-out-loud moments in the most unexpected places, that's all I'll say. Especially one near the beginning of the movie where, if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. That just absolutely had me cackling. I really, really did love so much of this humor. Now, some of it I do feel is a little misplaced, and I also think that I was confused sometimes whether certain scenes were internalized or externalized. I don't think it finds a balance 100% on that, but I still think overall it is very effective. Now, the big thing that is going to make or break this movie for a lot of people is the whole dog thing. I mean, it's pretty out there, like I said, and I don't really think the whole angle with her turning into a dog really ties properly into the meat and potatoes of the story, which is this struggle with motherhood and how someone could be, going through that. The supernatural elements don't really pay off in a big way, and there's certain things that just kind of happen that are kind of left unsaid, or just kind of seem like loose ends by the end of the story. And I really wasn't a huge fan of that, though I appreciated a lot of like what they were doing, especially what it meant for the character. But yet again, it doesn't tie back in a meaningful way that it could have had they just focused primarily on this very grounded story that is beyond compelling. I think some of the best written drama of the entire year. And also there's a lot of flashbacks that occur that are also part of the narrative, and they kind of tie into the whole story, but yet again, I don't feel like that was really elaborated on well enough or tied back in as meaningful of a way as it could have been. So there's a lot of things structurally about this movie that I don't think quite work or pay off, but I do think what is there is some of the best written work that you will see for the entirety of 2024. I also think the ending is a little tacked on, like the very last moment, and it just felt like it kind of came out of nowhere. And yet again, I think there's so much of this that is so unbelievably strong that I was able to overlook this and really be swept up in this film. Nightbitch is really such a surprise after that first initial trailer. And one that I think is such an amazing star vehicle for Amy Adams. I really do think that this is also an important movie for mothers to watch, because I feel like a lot of mothers will glean a lot from this. And there's a lot of great conversations too, with multiple layers of subtext that's happening, especially this one dinner sequence that I won't really get into, but there's a character who says a certain line, and it could be taken in so many ways, in a very literal sense where they're talking about them, or more so them talking about Amy Adams' character. And I really loved that writing in the film that was to that level of sharpness, because I just wish the whole movie was as consistent as that. But regardless, I really, really enjoyed Nightbitch. I can't wait to see it again when it comes back in theaters, and I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10, a very low 8 out of 10 at that, because like I said, I did have issues with the narrative, but so much of this just really, really absolutely worked for me, and I'm so glad it wasn't a disappointment. I couldn't really have asked too much more besides the things I criticized with this movie, and I'm really glad that I got to see it at TIFF, that I got to see it with Marielle Heller, Scoot McNairy, Amy Adams, all there. I was in the first 3 rows, so that was pretty fantastic, I've got to say, and definitely an experience I will never forget. But you guys let me know what you thought of Nightbitch if you saw it at the Toronto International Film Festival, and please smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, stay tuned for more of these reviews coming up, because the next one is probably the one that I've been wanting to get to for the longest time, you know, even before I went to the festival, and that, of course, is Anora, written and directed by Sean Baker, starring Mikey Madison. So please stay on the lookout for that review, and so much more. I will talk to you guys very soon.